Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion 9.
All right, everybody, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. I'm Guido, along with Scoot.
Yo, yo, yo.
And Johnson.
Take that, horny toads.
Yeah, take that, frogs of war. You're going down. Yes, WVU wins against TCU in Fort Worth, 29-17, and it was a great day to be a Mountaineer.
Yes.
Finally a win, and a different looking WVU team, especially offensively, Johnson.
Yeah, I think you could tell that there was a little more oomph after that opening kickoff, that Guido, once again, that's 2 games in a row that, if I'm being honest, I haven't even fully settled. Like, I had cooked dinner. I was cleaning up. I was getting ready for the game. I hadn't even fully sat down. This is the second week in a row I have not even fully sat down, gotten comfortable on the couch, and we're already down 7-0. So I think it was, I got to give the team credit. They took that punch in the mouth. We were texting each other like, here we go type of text, but they kept it together. They stayed grounded. I thought they put some drives together, especially in that first half. It wasn't another game where we were like, whoa, we look completely unprepared to play. I thought they came out, they looked strong. Now look, Scoot, TCU's not good. Like, let's not get it twisted here. TCU's not a good team, but you know what? Texas Tech is not a good team either, and we came out and looked really lost, and we weren't able to get that win. So I think going on the road, keeping your composure after getting hit in the mouth and pulling out a win, and a strong win. I mean, 29-17, almost doubling them up. That's solid. It's hard to be mad after that. I'll say that. It was great to get a win and get back on track a little bit.
Yeah, it was. I predicted this win, so I can't be surprised.
You did. You're still perfect on the season.
I know, which is upsetting.
I don't know, something about it. I'm glad we won. Don't get me wrong. I am glad we won, but I just have a bad vibe. I feel a bad vibe, and I think part of it is.
Well, you're not convinced, are you? Like,
no,
it's not.
And I think that's the problem, though, guys. I think that nobody in West Virginia fandom right now is convinced. And this game may have helped a little, but there were still parts of it that I think made us feel not convinced. There were still the 67-yard Garrett Green run that made us go, well, why isn't he playing?
Yes.
But Jarrett Doege had a great game. Like, that's not,
he had
all
a good
joking
game.
aside.
He had a good game.
As Jarrett Doege games go over the past 2.25 seasons that he's been the quarterback for WVU, he had a Jarrett Doege great game. He was connecting on long passes. He threw for over 250 yards. He completed almost all of his passes. So for Jarrett Doege, it was a great. There were long. I mean, he had one that was 44 yards. I mean, we had passes down the field. I'm with you, Scoot, though, on the fact that it just there's still something about it.
Well, now I'm to the point, like, for me, again, this is, I don't know, maybe I'm irrational. Maybe Johnson, you can talk me out of this. I'm ticked. Like, I feel like, listen, if you're not going to play him, don't play him. Don't play him at all. Don't even put Garrett Green in at all. And I think Jake Lance even wrote something about that. Like, listen, it's obvious you don't want to play him. Now you're playing him just because you feel like you have to play him because enough people have complained about it. So now you're giving us the one random drive. And, oh, by the way, when he had that one random drive, he ran farther than any other WVU quarterback not named Pat White.
Right.
And I think somehow fell in like the top 10 or top 15 longest runs from scrimmage.
Right.
But let's not bring him back in the rest of the game.
Well, and don't you think, I sat there the rest of the game when it became apparent you were never going to see him again. I thought, what would the problem be that he needs to work out this week in practice? Like, ran too fast? Like drive worked too well? Like, what does he need to clean up this week in practice?
Just put him at running back then. If you're not going to use him as a quarterback, make him be another running back.
Yeah, and
like maybe he gets snaps as a second
and didn't
back.
you think as the game went on and you wanted to bleed clock. And, it was like it was really nice to finally find a team that we could run on, Guido. Let's face it, we could run on TCU, especially early. Now, I know they kind of got their act together, as the game went on, maybe third quarter, but early especially we were running, and Letty had a great night. Didn't you feel like it would have been an ample opportunity to leave Garrett in, run the RPO, and just work that clock and work rushing, move the chains running the ball, but we didn't see him make an appearance the rest of the game.
Right. And I'm with Scoot on that. And Jake Lance said the same thing from SmokyMusket.com. Like, just don't let us know that he's there. The unfortunate part, and it's true though, don't put a guy out. He runs, and like you said, it's 67 yards, longest run since 2008
and he
for a
looked
WVU
fast.
quarterback.
He did
he
look
looked
fast.
Fast as crap.
Yeah,
he was freaking fast. I don't know. He just looks fast.
He threw one pass. He was 1 for 1 on passing for 1 yard, but I feel like we're and here's the thing. I think there are some interesting things that came out of this from the offensive side of it. For me, the most interesting part was and both Mike Kazaza and Jake Lance in their respective, SmokyMusket.com and 247 Sports both wrote about this, which was the fact that as the camera panned a few times to Neil Brown, he was not holding a play call sheet. He was not holding
I saw
sheet
this
that
discussion.
has all the plays
Right.
on it. So then who was making the play calls and who now? So I feel like, and I think we all felt like, it was a completely different looking offense in a lot of ways from 2 weeks ago. And so what have we changed on it that has made this, happen with this offense? And maybe it's Neil Brown's not calling the plays anymore.
Well, I can't completely decide, and I hate to keep doing this. I don't mean to be I honestly don't mean it negatively, but I think you could tell that TCU's defense kind of helped us look a little bit better Saturday night. But I think I agree with you, Guido. I think if for no other reason, Jarrett Doege was really efficient. I know there were, luckily TCU let him off the hook. I think in the first quarter, he was determined to try and force a pass into double coverage. We ended up with a leg field goal. Really that could have been picked off and returned for big yardage. He had a couple throws where he was determined to force it into black jerseys when the play wasn't there, and thankfully those didn't get intercepted. You might be saying something different, same old Jarrett Doege if those get picked off. I don't know, but I think just overall, the play calling felt tighter, the plays felt more efficient, and I think it's hard to argue with, if the happiest person on the evening had to be Letty Brown collecting touchdowns. I think you saw him having success, and you even saw Scoot Mathis came out of witness protection. We hadn't seen him in ages, and he looked terrific on a couple series. So I think overall, if you needed a confidence boost for this offensive line in this running game, you certainly got it Saturday night.
It makes me wonder. So we see Mathis, we don't see Johnson. So that I don't know, and I don't know that we'll ever know. Is it something they're not doing? Is it something that Johnson didn't do this week that allowed Mathis to be the guy, or vice versa? And not that it's that big of a deal, but it's just kind of, I'm now starting to overanalyze the thought process of Neil Brown and the coaching staff, just because he's given me reason to try to overanalyze his thought process and the coaching staff. And like I've said to you guys 1,000 times, and I'll say it 1,000 more, he might be a nice guy. Seems like a nice guy.
Right.
But there's something, I'm not happy I hate not being happy we won, but I'm not happy with how Coach Brown has kind of conducted himself
But here's my problem, Scoot. And this is where it becomes a problem. And next week, so now we go on to Iowa State. Iowa State, a much better team than TCU is, and we'll probably revert back to a lot of the issues that we've had previously. But let's talk truths here, right? Let's talk some truths here. Neil Brown, we gave him grief for how bad this season has gone when we were, we'd lost all of these games. We were 2-4 going into the break. 2 weeks, we said, hey, you got to fix things. You got to come out. You got to beat TCU. You got to look good. Team came out. They look good. Letty Brown runs over 100 yards. In my opinion, all we hear is Max Duggan, Max Duggan, Max Duggan. Jarrett Dagey looked better than Max Duggan. Like, what else do you want?
Yeah, and the team looked in, I think we were heading into the bye like, man, Texas Tech, and then on the heels of that, a Baylor game where the team looked like they'd rather be at their dentist appointment than on the football field, right? So
exactly.
I think we all were saying, look, we just want to see a team that's engaged and ready to go, and they don't have to be perfect, but we need to see some energy and the defense gets back on track. And I agree with you, Guido. Like, if you're I see where Scoot's coming from, because I turned the game off Saturday night. Like, I'm glad we won, but there was plenty of stuff I still felt like I was, dissatisfied with. But the energy was there. You're on the road. I think it makes absolutely no sense that Neil Brown is winless against Texas Tech, but somehow owns Gary Patterson. That just makes no sense to me at all. So it's hard to be mad, I think.
Well, and I guess here's my question. What would have made you feel different on Saturday night? What could they have done to make you feel any different?
Well, I think we're coming off this bye week. We've all, and I think I'm going to speak on behalf of all Mountaineer fans, have clamored for some
as you are to do,
some sort of change to the offense. Some sort of like, hey, you know what? Let's go to what worked really well in that first drive against Oklahoma. We didn't do that, and I'll be honest. When I saw the first two drives, I was like, all right, here we go. We'll just Daggy it up for the rest of the eternity.
But I disagree. I disagree with you, though. We had time of possession. I mean, we owned the first quarter of that game, minus the stupid run back on the kickoff to start the game. WVU owned that first quarter. Like, we had 11 minutes. We had the ball. We drove the ball down the field. Yes, there were touchdowns, and then there should have been touchdowns, and there were field goals. But, they did what they were supposed to do. I think my argument to it is what else do you want from this team?
I don't know. I just think back to the times when we felt, I guess I want to dominate, but we're not going to dominate. So that's what I think. I know. That's what I miss, domination. I miss, I don't like, okay, are we going to keep it close? Are we going to win tonight? That's an every game feel. There used to be a time when we'd be like, we should destroy this team. It's going to be awesome.
So you're spoiled. What you're saying is you're spoiled.
Yes.
Is
what I'm saying also, and I saw somebody tweet this, but Neil Brown can only beat teams that wear purple as their predominant color. And I would also argue that he only is successful against teams that have their head coach or former head coach as a statue outside their stadium. So
yes, ridiculous.
You've got Gary Patterson, who has his statue outside of the Horned Frog. I don't know what a frog lives in, but a frog nest, frog dome.
Yeah.
Frogville.
Nest. Right.
And then you've got Bill Self. You've got Snyder.
Right. Family Bill restroom Snyder, stadium. Yeah.
Family restroom stadium, wearing his windbreaker and his pony sneakers.
Right.
Standing out in front of the Wildcat den.
E-Mall.
E-Mall, yeah. Every man a Wildcat.
Every man a windbreaker.
Yes, that's they should do windbreaker giveaways.
They should.
I don't know if they do. But I don't want to root for, hey, are we going to play a team that's wearing purple? Then I feel good about it. That's stupid.
Well, if
you look at my predictions, those are what I have.
Well, isn't it interesting though, Guido, that it's so weird to me. I feel like we do this every Neil Brown season now, because like I said, he's winless somehow against Texas Tech. But Texas Tech is a dumpster that someone has set on fire and pushed down a hill, and we, losing that game. If you're sitting here right now at 4-3, you're not feeling so bad, right? But it's just it's so weird, and that game is going to be a thorn in our, like, yeah, does Baylor feel bad? Sure, you shouldn't have gotten blown out, but I think we're going to find Baylor is a pretty talented team. They're going to win some games, and they're going to be in the mix here down the end of the season. Texas Tech is not, and that game is just going to be a thorn in our side now. But anyway, look, it happened. We need to Johnson move on. I know we need to move on.
Well, here's the thing, Guido. Do you feel going into next week, Iowa State? Do you feel confident?
Well, and that's where I was going, Guido, not to cut you off, but that's exactly where I was going with that comment, because that is still lurking in the back of your mind. So now you go, so yes, you got this win.
Does this week make you feel confident for next week?
Right. You're still 3-4 because of that just debacle at home against Texas Tech. Now you're heading into Iowa State. I watched a lot of the Iowa State Oklahoma State. That was a very good game. I thought Oklahoma State came out early and looked like they were going to dominate. Iowa State regrouped and look, they beat a really good Oklahoma State team. So I mean, Scoot, I'll go, since I inserted myself here, I'll go first. I don't feel like, I think the defense can play a good game. I think they can, I mean, look, Iowa State's got a really nice, receiver, really nice running back in Breece Hall. They've got a really good quarterback who's mobile. They remind me a lot of this, TCU team on offense, and even Virginia Tech a little bit with their mobile quarterback. But I'm not confident that the offense is going to be able to overcome on their side of the ball. I think the defense can keep us in it. I'm just not confident in Jarrett Doege leading this team out there and getting a win over a team like that. I'm not.
Here's the thing, Scoot. Am I confident? No, I'm not confident. Do I think this West Virginia Jarrett Doege led team can beat Iowa State? Yeah, I do. I do think this team can. I think, and here's the thing about this West Virginia team. I'm actually starting to come around to the fact that we sit here and we complain about quarterbacks and we complain about players and we talk about individual performances. And I think the problem for some reason this year is more coaching than players. And so I think they can be coached to beat Iowa State. I think that if they were coached like they were coached against TCU, there's a better chance. If they were coached like they were coached against Oklahoma, there's a better chance. Here's the thing, Scooty. Like, I'm done. I'm kind of, and listen, we made fun. I know we tweeted out this week a funny comment Guido made at the beginning of the season about how he bought the Jarrett Doege jersey.
I'm excited about the jersey, seeing that jersey at the Texas game. That's going to be sweet.
That did not age well.
That did not age well. I agree. But here,
get that number 2.
Let me throw something at you. Now, I know you're not a stats guy, Scoot, but right now, Jarrett Doege, starting quarterback for WVU, leads the Big 12 in passing yards, average yards per game, passing attempts. He's second in completed passes. He's beating Brock Purdy, who we're going to see this weekend. He's beating Brock Purdy in all of those. The player can play. Can he be coached to play? I think it's a coaching issue. So yes, do I think WVU can beat Iowa State? Am I confident? No, because I'm not confident right now about the coaching staff.
I will agree with you. I do think it's a coaching issue. I think we do have players that will help us win. I don't disagree with that. I think if you were to look back, and I know everyone talks about how the cupboard was bare and yada yada yada, but coaches are paid to win. And that's how we judge them. If you look back, go back 3 years before Neil Brown. When we went to play Iowa State, did you ever have a lack of confidence in that week?
But I think that's a difference between Iowa State has built their program better over the past couple of years.
I mean, okay, well then I think we could have gone into almost any week other than Oklahoma and said, you know what, I think we got a pretty good chance.
You know what I think the problem though is, Scooty, and this is a bigger conversation in a lot of ways, is like, I think our tolerance as fans for coaches has diminished a lot over the decades that we've been WVU fans. Because Rich Rodriguez, he was, and you keep hearing the stat right now, he was like 15-13 in his first 3 years or whatever. Like, he didn't start winning till his 5th or 6th year at WVU. Like 07 was his 6th year, 7th year at WVU, Johnson. So you look at it and go, well, why aren't we? I get it. There are coaching issues. why are we year 3 after COVID? I get whatever, but why are we year 3 so hard on Neil Brown right now?
For me, I'll tell you, I'm jumping in. For me, some of it is he gets paid a ton.
Yeah.
The
more than most West Virginians make.
Yeah, the transfer portal has kind of evened things. I think it's made it in the sense that, like, hey, if you can't recruit real well as far as getting the high school guys, you can possibly, pluck a couple guys off the transfer portal and maybe help yourself. And we have extended his contract and included a gigantic buyout because we were worried that Auburn was going to take him last year, which I don't know that that's as real as it is. So now we're kind of like stuck with him for a while. And I don't like feeling that like that, but we are kind of stuck with him for a while. So, like, hey man, if we've got you as our coach, like, we've got some expectations.
Well, and I think too, I mean, for one thing, Guido, Rich Rod started winning immediately. I mean, you don't remember that, but I mean, his second year we were 9-4 going to a bowl. So I mean, right. he did win early. I think it's a little bit of carryover from I think people got bland on Holgs early in his Big 12 career, even though he left his Big 12 tenure pretty successful, 10 wins, and then I think 8 wins in 2 of those 3 seasons. So I think people wanted to see that as the baseline and then moving forward, which in any coaching change is pretty irrational. I think what has done, I think this is a unique situation with head coach Neil Brown because of sticking with this quarterback, sticking with these, like, where it looks like, you weren't going to beat Army. I mean, we've covered it. You weren't going to beat Army. You had to bench him. You're now losing games like Texas Tech. You don't see the progression, but I'm asking to trust the climb. I'm asking you to trust this climb. I don't see the progression. I think that's why he's picking up a lot of heat. And I think this TCU game hopefully isn't just like a stopgap. I hope we come out against Iowa State, who I'll remind you guys across the board, we all picked in the preseason as a loss. So not even Scoot, Scoot's been 1,000% and he's got it as a loss. So it looks like it's definitely leaning loss. But
so you guys just ask me what you want and I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Well, I just think we need to now try to build off of this. Guido, we haven't talked about it, but some wonderful secondary play, stuff that really got you up off the couch with 2 terrific interceptions. The defense pretty much pitched a shutout in the second half. I think the offense, to your point, I think Scoot's frustrated because they're not flashy, but I think I'm okay with that if you're winning. If you're efficient, if you're winning, if we're not throwing interceptions, if we're not putting the ball on the turf, fumbling it and turning it over, I'm okay with that. I just hope that we can now take this and build on it against what I think is going to be a much, much better Iowa State team.
Well, we talked about it last week with Jake Lance from Smoky Musket about how, like, all right, you come out, you beat TCU after – the bye week, you come out rejuvenated, energized, whatever. You steal one of these games from Iowa State or Oklahoma State, you probably beat a subpar Kansas State team. Maybe you steal one from Texas, and listen, I'm quitting if we don't beat Kansas because, I know Kansas didn't look horrible against Oklahoma, but Oklahoma also is having their
if there was ever a year
to
beat Oklahoma, it was this version.
That's what's we can have another conversation about Oklahoma. It's killing me this year about how Oklahoma's 4th ranked, but they are this is the weakest year ever for Oklahoma.
This version.
And so now I went into last week in the bye week and I'm like, we're not going to a bowl. And now I'm looking at it and going, man, we could still do this. This can still happen, guys. 3 wins here out is not necessarily out of the cards.
Well, it's funny how your emotions go through that, right? As a WVU fan, it's like you're always riding the roller coaster. I want to see positives. I think, like Jake was saying last week, you're going to have to try to get these games that we thought were gettable. So you mentioned Kansas State and Kansas. You got to then steal one from someone. Is it Iowa State? Is it Oklahoma State? I think before we move on, though, I think, Scoot, I would just circle back and say, look, you had 2 bad losses. One that I think is a horrific loss against Texas Tech. You go into the bye week in a terrible mood. this team could have packed it in and taken this road trip to Fort Worth and taken a bad loss here to TCU, because they're also not a good team. But they didn't. I think we should commend the team and the staff for, they looked ready, they looked engaged, they looked like they had energy there on those interceptions. I thought everyone fed off of Porter and Charles Woods having a great game. I liked it. I mean, it's hard to be mad after that win. I'm glad they didn't pack it in, and so I'm with you, Guido. It gives me a little bit of hope now down the stretch. Maybe you're trying to regroup and see where you can build on it. That's where I'm hoping we are.
Here's what I'll say. Since I do make great predictions.
If you
want to get,
I can't wait till he gets one wrong.
If you want to get to 6 wins,
yeah, I do.
It's gonna have to happen against Iowa State.
Okay.
I don't think we have a chance to beat Oklahoma State. We've done really poorly against them in the last couple of years.
Yeah, right.
And we're not going to – I think Texas is going to be tough.
I agree. Yeah.
So I think your best bet is Iowa State. But with that being said –
For the one that we steal.
Right. I think Kansas and Kansas State we should win. But because, let's be honest. I don't even know what Kansas State has. Do they still have Optimus Prime or whatever that character? They had a guy that was named after a Transformer or some jazz.
No, but they have a really talented running back. I mean, they've got some talent on, but I know what you mean. Like, of the games remaining, they're clearly one of the gettable games. But
yes. But Iowa State is going to have to be that steal game, because I don't think we're stealing the other 2 games.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
So we look at going into Iowa State. Iowa State playing strong, 3-1 in the conference right now. Our defense looked good this weekend. I mean, Josh Chandler-Tomato still playing out of his mind. Like, he's having a great season. Yeah. And I hope that there are NFL scouts that are keeping an eye on it, because, I mean, every week you look at the box score and he's top of tackles. Like, he's at the top of the list every week.
Right. Jared Bartlett a couple times looked like he was shot out of a cannon. He had a great game. I don't know if you guys know who Dante Steele is, but he apparently had a good game.
Dante Steele. And Charles Woods finally, like, where's he been all season? Like, all of a sudden, what, two fumbles recoveries, and
am I wrong? I thought maybe I got to think about this. I shouldn't have brought this up if I wasn't for sure, but I thought Charles Woods came in because, unfortunately, Nick Troy Fortune went down. Hopefully he's not injured, hopefully he can come back, but I thought he was in as a, trying to fill a role, right, Guido? He was getting some more time.
He got more because Nick Troy went down in the first half, and
so, I mean, he played terrific for being inserted like that.
So it's just, I feel like we've got a chance. Iowa State, the defense steps up. I mean, Brock Purdy, still a great quarterback. Iowa State's still a good, strong Big 12 team right now. Does WVU, though, Iowa State at home, weird 2:00 kickoff time. Like, for me, like, that's the strangest thing. We're home, but it's a 2:00 kick. It's on ESPN Plus. Will fans show up? Will the crowd be ready? WVU, I'm with you, Scoot. Like, this, I feel like of our season right now, this is the make or break.
This game coming up, I think, will determine bowl or no bowl.
Well, don't you think it's interesting though? I'm maybe I'm laying it on thick here with the blind optimism, but I think it is interesting that, Guido, you're already alluding to it. Like, you got to come to Morgantown. It's kind of a weird mid-afternoon kick.
Yep.
You play Texas. So if you're Iowa State, you play Texas next. Are you rolling into Morgantown like, hey, the Mountaineers aren't having that great of a season, we ought to get this. Let's just get in here, get this win, and then get on to Texas.
Thinking about Texas.
Yeah,
right?
do you catch them a little bit? And they're coming off a big win. They just had a really emotional, I think, storming the field win against Oklahoma State. They didn't expect to get that win. Do you have an opportunity to catch them a little bit? Do you play well, and do you catch them looking ahead? Do you catch them patting themselves on the back from beating Oklahoma State?
I can tell you what we are going to catch is a lot of how Matt Campbell is the next hot coach in America, and that I'm sure LSU and some of these other places will be knocking on his door, USC, and that we'll hear a lot of Matt Campbell garbage.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, though. I mean, and you say that, Scooty, but I think this might be Matt Campbell. I mean, if he can pull off the season that he's kind of building for right now, this might be his last season at Iowa State, because there are going to be some big spots open, and he's going to be a name that's going to be thrown around for those, you know. So, I mean, and you joke about the LSU, but, I mean, that might be the direction that he may be going. But I think that WVU is this is one of those times where, you know, Neil Brown has to start showing something to the fans. And I don't necessarily know if it's about personnel as much as it's about, you know, change
and
and
identity.
being able to
we
change.
have no identity.
Well, and I think it's creating that identity that he's been talking about, Scooty. That's a great way of saying it. What is it?
Are we a defensive team? If we are, then let's go all in on defense. Like let's be that defensive team. Are we on offense? What are we?
Well, and I think that it's a matter of motivating the team and getting past this first half that was a stinker. Like, it was just bad, and it felt bad, and like we said with Jake last week, like, the emotions, not only for us as fans, are down, but it has to be that way in the locker room. So now you've got this win under your belt. You came out, you beat TCU. I thought the team played well. I think that the next step is trying to kind of build on that. And you come out of that bye week and you beat TCU, and then you turn around the next week at home and you upset over Iowa State. Even if you finish the season with only 6 wins from here on out, I think it changes the whole tenor of the situation for Neil Brown.
You sound like a guy that is putting your harness back on and perhaps
grabbing your carabiners,
getting your carabiners all lined up. Maybe packing an extra Cliff Bar or something in your backpack. Right.
I mean,
you're going to trust this climb. You're going to get back on that horse, back on your mule, and go along the ridge. You're going to do some ridge running here.
Listen, you upset Iowa State this week. And
oh, man, you're all in. I can't wait. That Daggy jersey will be visible at the Texas game.
I'm buying backpacks. I may be getting a new tent. Like, I might be ready. Like, that, I don't know.
The only problem is if you buy a WVU jersey now, you're going to get the ridiculous 21 because it's 2021. So somehow we are going to have to do something where we're going to have to get some sort of like seam ripper and take off the 1 to your Daggy jersey.
Well, and I think we do not to throw the wet blanket on your, you know, getting prepped for the extension of your climb here, but
starting to put his tent away. He's starting to unpack. He
is. He's doing it. He's getting warmed up. I think
he's taking the leftover coffee and throwing it in the fire.
Just keep in mind though, Iowa, you're going. So you had a really nice Saturday night against TCU's 9th ranked out of 10 Big 12 rush defenses, right? Yes. And Letty Brown felt good, and we were all really happy for him, and we're patting the offensive line on the back. I hope they can keep it up against Iowa State's 2nd ranked out of 10 rushing defenses in the conference. I think it's going to be a tougher task. I think it's going to be, you know, something where you're going to need to build on. So if you thought you had some strengths against TCU, let's see it in action against this team that I think is going to be a legit defense.
No, you're absolutely right. But I like getting excited.
I know. And I want you to be excited. I want to be excited with you. Scoots pulled me over into base camp a little bit, and I can't quite, you know.
Listen, I think, can I say this?
Go ahead.
Here's the deal.
All right.
Are you willing to make a bet, Guido? Are you a betting man?
I mean, you know I'm a betting man.
Okay, here's the deal. We're going to this Texas game, right?
Right.
Okay.
Oh boy. If Scoot loves this kind of stuff.
If WVU beats Iowa State,
okay,
I will walk into Milan Puskar Stadium.
I like this.
With a gigantic sign that I've handwritten that says "Daggy is my boy."
Okay.
If Iowa State beats us, you will walk into that stadium with the handwritten sign that says, "Daggy is my boy."
I like this.
All right, I'll make that bet. I'll do that bet. I will 100% do that bet.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's
do it. I will do that bet. Nice big cardboard.
Yep.
Nice big cardboard sign.
Sharpie, big Sharpie.
Yes.
No hearts on
no,
it.
No. Just
no
like
hearts.
like a game day, college game day, big sign.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay,
Daggy is my boy.
100%. If we do that, I'm in, Scooty. 100%. I'm in.
Okay.
Oh man, it's gonna be now. I'm a little more stressed.
Do you think they'll assume if you do that? Do you think they'll assume you're like Max Duggan's dad sitting in the stands that we had to hear about for 4 quarters about,
people are gonna start trying to do a little age quick
Right.
cross reference on your
Quick
age
math.
and
Yeah, right.
yeah, like that guy could be. I guess he's what 40 something. Maybe he's his dad.
Maybe he
is it
is.
really his
Yeah.
dad? Why would his dad sit in such a high seat though? Like why would he not be closer to the field?
I'm gonna tell people I'm Jared Daggy's uncle,
Right.
like long lost uncle.
Yes.
Right now, WVU is not picked to win the game. Iowa State is a 7-point favorite right now over WVU in the spread.
All right.
So, I mean, it's a touchdown. It's not too
One
bad.
possession.
It's actually, to be honest with you, it was a little better than I thought it was
Yeah,
going to be. when Vegas
I'm
came
kind
out
of
with it.
surprised too, to be honest.
Says the guy who's worried about carrying a sign. He's got to talk himself into something better here.
Listen,
He's like, well, you know.
I can't. What's going to happen halftime? Scooty's going to be like negotiating halftime if WVU's up. He's going to be like, "Say about that sign thing."
I know we had fun about that
No, listen,
sign.
we're on. It's on.
All right, it's on. 100% on. Well, WVU plays Iowa State Saturday. A very common 2:00 kickoff because we see those all the time.
Right.
That game is on ESPN Plus, so pull out your nickels and be ready to be charged to be able to watch WVU if you watch it on TV. So it's it could happen though. I feel like and I agree with Scooty. Like I feel like this is the win that Neil Brown needs to get to make us all get back on the climb. So it's definitely true. Well, guys, listen, we have something very exciting for you. We're going to talk WVU basketball in the next segment, and the one, the only, Brent Solheim is going to join us to talk about this 2021-2022 WVU basketball team. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Eers On.
Vortec Knives is a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in high-quality steel, fast-opening, everyday carrying knives. If you go to vortechknives.com today and use the code GYEO, you get a 25% discount on your entire order. That's Vortech, VORTEK knives.com, a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in fast opening, high quality, everyday carry knives. Vortec Knives.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Got Your Ears On. Guido here along with Scoot and Johnson. And don't forget, you can find us online. Look for us on Instagram, Twitter, on all of the social medias at Got Your Ears. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search Got Your Ears On. Well, guys, it's that time of year again. It's time to talk WVU basketball. And as always, the three of us don't know much, so we like to invite somebody who does know a lot. Brent Solheim, back again this year to join us to talk WVU basketball. Thanks for coming back, Brent.
Hey, no problem. Always a pleasure. It's always a good time to join you guys. So thank you for inviting me.
So we're excited to have you on. We're going to talk about this new team, Johnson, for WVU. Way different this year. Super guard heavy. Kind of a different Huggins approach with you've got all these first-year transfers that are actually going to play. Johnson, what is your first thought on WVU basketball this season and what Huggins has got with this team?
Well, with so many moving pieces, I think I'm still kind of wondering what that starting five is going to shape up to look like. It seems like we have almost like a lot of folks battling for the same positions, doesn't it? In that former version. So if you think back to last year, I mean, I know we kind of forced the point guard position a bit. I mean, I think we probably had someone who was, more comfortable in a 2 play in the 1, but it seemed like if you thought about Culver, if you at the 5, if you thought about, kind of Jalen Bridges and the folks we had at the 3, it felt like we had at least people you would depend on. You knew who that rotation was going to be. I feel like coming in now, especially when I spent all off season feeling like I wouldn't see Taz and Sean McNeil back because I thought they'd be battling each other for the same position, and they're both back. I feel like I'm still trying to figure out what that 5-man rotation is going to look like, Scoot.
Yeah, it's a different type of Huggins team. I don't know that we're going to have the big bodies inside like we have in the past. Well, almost 15 years now with Huggins. What you've got is a lot of guards, and it feels like we've got a bajillion. I'm going to go with a bajillion. We've got a bajillion.
That's a big number.
We've got a bajillion guys that are like, could be a 2, could be a 3, could be maybe a 4. Like, so there's a bunch of guys in that 2, 3, 4 spot that, like you said, are going to be kind of fighting for time. And I think the rotation will be interesting to see. And I don't know if he's going to throw a lot of guys out there early to just try to see what's going to stick. I do think that you're going to see Gabe is going to have to be a defensive presence for us and a rebounder. And I think Isaiah Cottrell is going to have to do some of that as well now that he's healthy.
Well, and Brent, we heard like already, in some of the discussions that we've seen on the socials from some of the players leading into this season, we've even heard some comments saying, we probably should have been helping Derek more on the boards anyways, which I thought was kind of funny. So I think guys know with Culver now not being in this squad, people are going to have to pick up the load or their fair share of rebounding.
That's 100%. I saw the same thing that I forget what news outlet it was on, but the guys were saying like, yeah, we didn't help Derek as much as he probably, or gave him the help he should have had. So it will be interesting this year, though. Last year when we came in, we had Derek and Oscar were going to be our, dominant front line. And this year we could still have both, but we don't have either. So, who is going to step up? Obviously, Gabe. That's the most obvious one, but he's 6'7". So then you're looking at who else can come in. And I saw the Blue Gold debut. I think it was 2 Fridays ago, and I thought Isaiah looked really well. I was really happy to see him coming off of that injury. His shot was so soft. He hit a couple threes. He looked really good. But how explosive will he be? I don't know. And how durable will he be? I don't know that either. So those would be the 2 guys that I would look to, start at our front line. And then you got Bridges, probably at the 3. And then what do you do with the 1 and 2? You got Sean and Taz. So right now, I would say that would be my starting lineup, those 5 guys. And who's going to bring the ball up the court? I'd say probably Taz. But I don't know. It's so many things are up in the air right now with who's going to be, fighting over those minutes. I know, with as many new people as we have coming in, what I always tell people is when you come to campus, the guys on the team aren't your friends at first. They're your competition for minutes. And you become friends after a while. But I imagine the practices right now are pretty intense because everyone's going to be fighting for playing time.
Yeah, and Guido, you corrected me too, because I think with Brent's comment about who brings the ball up, I had kind of spent this offseason just assuming we had a point guard now figured out with Malik Curry, but you guys were already kind of correcting me. That might actually not be the case definitively.
Well, I mean, I still think you might see Malik Curry in the 1, but I think it's just going to be different on how they play, with the point guard position. I don't think Malik Curry is a true point guard like we saw, so much with Deuce or some of the other guys that we've seen the past couple of years. And so now, and it's kind of funny, it's weird to say this, I feel like this is a Bob Huggins team that's built a lot like a Pat Beeline team or John Beeline team. Like, I feel like this is a guard heavy. There's a lot of shooters. There's a lot of 3-point talk guys. You got Taz, you got Sean. Malik Curry is a pull up and shoot kind of guy. So, you see this team, you saw it last year with Jalen, who will probably start in the 4. These are all guys that want to shoot outside the arc, Brent. And so that kind of changes what Huggins has kind of taught us over the last 15 years.
I agree with you. It's almost like we are a little bit more athletic John Beeline team. I can't disagree with you on that. Taz, Sean, JB all like to shoot threes. Isaiah was shooting threes. I imagine Gabe will get benched if he starts shooting threes, but I think all the other guys are going to have a green light.
Do you think that with this many outside shooters, long shots produce long rebounds? So maybe it's not as paramount that we have multiple big men in the game at the same time.
I mean, that's definitely a true statement. Those rebounds are going to be coming out. So if you have an Oscar or a Culver right under the hoop and those balls are bouncing out 15 feet, maybe they're not getting them anyway. So maybe it won't be that big a deal. But one thing that happens with that, though, too, long shots, long misses create opportunities for the other team for transition baskets as well. So we have to make sure that even if we're shooting a lot of outside shots, we're getting back, sprinting back to the other end of the court as well.
Well, and Guido, you haven't said it, but I felt like you were maybe thinking it, so I'm going to bring it up. But do you think with the makeup of this team, the athleticism, maybe heavy on the guard side, I agree with you there. Do you think it gives Huggs pause to try a little bit more pressing or a little bit more full court defense than he would have otherwise?
Well, and he said a couple of times here in the postseason, like, this is going to be a different defensive look. I mean, I would not be surprised if we see Press Virginia come back more this season. I mean, he needs to do something, because I think the thing that I'm worried. So there's a lot of positives. I think the thing that I'm worried about is, and Brent, you and I were talking about this before the show started. It's an old team. It's not a really young team. I mean, there's a lot of fifth-year seniors. There's a lot of, regular seniors, fifth-year seniors and regular seniors. There's not a lot of cohesiveness. This isn't a team that's played a lot together. I mean, I know some of these guys are coming back, but the guys that are coming back played in a completely different offense and team last year. So I think that, Huggins has got to do something to change it up this season, because I don't think he's going to have as much offensive prowess as I think he thought he had last year with Derek and, some of the other guys being able to shoot, Brent.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It will be interesting because I don't see any, Javon Carter might have been the best defender we've had, and I don't know how long, but there's no Javon Carters on this team up there pressuring the guards even like a Deuce. Deuce was great on defense, but I don't see Sean or Taz as tenacious on defense as a Javon or Deuce. So even if we do a press Virginia, I don't think it's going to be as scary as it was, 5-6 years ago when we had those just incredible athlete, bulldog type guys up there just pressuring 94 feet. I don't see that with this team, but you may see some additional pressing, but I don't think this is going to be a press Virginia. I don't want to say quality team, but that type of tenacious defense this year.
Yeah. And Scoot, do you think the other thing I think is interesting is with so much emphasis on Deuce last year, you kind of, he was kind of the man when you needed a basket, when you just had to have a bucket. I feel like that everyone just looked to Deuce like, hey, and I'd say most of the time defenses knew where the ball was going. Do you think that if you had to pick someone right now that was going to maybe stand out to step up and be the guy, maybe quote unquote, for this team, do you lean? I know it's hard right now, but do you start to lean anywhere? Does anyone stand out to you?
I mean, I think you've got to go. I think Taz, because Taz can get to the basket and he can shoot outside. He's not one-dimensional. Not to say that Sean McNeil is, but Sean's more likely to. If you're looking for a three, Sean might be that guy. But as far as getting a basket, it's Taz. I think Taz can create off the dribble better than some of the other guys. The thing that concerns me the most, really, though, with this team is the learning curve, right? So typically when teams, when we've had transfers on our teams, there's been a bit of a, 4 or 5 game lapse between when we see guys really start to pick it up, if not longer. I mean, right. Sometimes you don't see guys for a year when Huggins brings them in. I'm like, we look at Kedrian Johnson. He just finally started to kind of see some minutes toward the end of the season last year, really. So I worry that we're going to try to rush some of these guys along, and it could be a little bit of a, like you guys were saying, we're fighting for minutes. We could see, I don't want to say we will, but guys will end up in the doghouse if we do, but we could see some selfish play out of some guys just trying to kind of make a name for themselves or try to stand out. So that concerns me a little bit. Knowing Coach Huggins, though, I'm sure he and his staff have tried to put together personalities that wouldn't do those types of things. But when you're a 19, 20, 21, 22, maybe we have some 23-year-olds. I don't know how old Taz is. He could be 24. I don't know. But, there is a point where you're trying to establish, you're trying to make a name for yourself. You're trying to justify why the team wanted you, why the coaches wanted you. So I'm worried that we're going to see a little bit of that early on.
Brent, and from a player's perspective, this early, we allegedly had this secret, double secret, scrimmage game over the weekend against Dayton.
Yeah, against
we've got this
right.
We've got this exhibition game coming up in a week against Akron. And so this is a time of year when you start to get all these preseason, rankings and all this stuff. Right now, WVU, ranked 5th in the Big 12, got no votes from the AP. So there were no votes from the AP. Ken Pomeroy, KenPom.com, which is sort of like where all of us stats nerds go to look at basketball, has WVU 49th of D1 schools, so 49th of the 300 and whatever D1 schools there are. So it's for WVU, we're ranked lower than we average, with Huggins over the past couple of years on a whole. Does that is that a motivation factor from a player standpoint? Is that something that they're like, oh, we're being forgotten and we need to play harder? Or where do players stand on that?
So if you think back to last year, we were so hyped up. We got Deuce coming back. We got Derek. We got Oscar. We're going to be dominant. Just all you heard was how great we're going to be. And we came out and we were not great at all to start the season. And, Oscar quits 10 games in. This year, I think the guys are going to be hungrier because, we don't have our best guys back. Deuce, Derek, they're gone. So we need other guys to step up. And I'm hoping that they had some, a lot of work this summer. And we'll find out who put in the work this summer and who didn't. But, everything is wide open right now with who's going to get playing time, who's not. There's a lot of guys in that probably 4 to 8 or 9 range that could get a lot of minutes, could see very few minutes. But I think that's probably a fair ranking considering, they look at us as just having a couple of outside shooters coming back. I don't know that I would put us as a top 25 team. I know I wouldn't right now. So, that's probably not a terrible place to be. Now, Huggins announced at this Blue Gold debut that we were seeded 5th or 6th in the big 12 or something like that. And some people cheered. He said, why would you cheer for that? To the whole crowd, which was funny. So, he's going to have high expectations. He always does for his team. And, he will crack the whip and get them playing. If nothing else, they'll be playing hard. So I'm looking forward to the season, but a preseason, that's probably a pretty fair ranking.
Now, when you guys play, Brent, preseason, did you guys have these double secret exhibition games? Did you ever do that kind of stuff?
We did not. We always had opened up with the Turkish national team or something like that. We never had any of these secret scrimmages, and I know we scrimmaged at least Purdue a few times. Not my team, but here recently. And I've always wondered, hey, how do they choose these teams that they're going to practice against? Is it just a phone call or, why Purdue a couple years? Why Dayton now?
Why is it a secret?
I don't know. Well, they just don't probably want anything to get out that, West Virginia smashed Dayton or vice versa. And, have the fans or, people who the AP, whoever ranks them, they don't want to give them a heads up, I would guess.
And I guess a lot of what they do during those exhibition games is they do a lot of, simulated scenarios too. So they do a lot of each team goes, hey,
we're type stuff.
Yeah, start and stop. 2 minutes left. We're down by 10. What are we going to do? That kind of stuff. So it's really interesting. It's just so funny that they've made it so hush hush top secret kind of stuff. So it's really interesting.
Hey, Brent, when you played, did you have, if you can remember, did you have a lot of transfers at all? I mean, I know it's crazy now with the transfer portal and all that stuff, and fifth year is an extra time. But as you've played, do you remember having any transfers come in, and then how that process played out with trying to get accustomed to new guys? I know freshmen don't always see a lot of time, but maybe a transfer would.
No, so I can't remember having one transfer. We had several. We had probably, I don't want to say 50-50 mix of true freshmen and JUCO transfers, but not like from another school. Now, Elton Scott did come in my senior year, like in December. I'm not even sure how that worked out, or if he just became eligible then or what, but he was like a mid-season transfer. His first game was actually at Georgia in December, and he practiced with us for maybe 3 days before then. But I can't think of one right off the top of my head, someone who transferred from another school. The landscape is so different right now with the transfer portal than it was 20 years ago. It's totally different now. And I don't even know how the coaches would go about finding these people. How do you settle on, there's 300 people in the transfer portal? How do you even start recruiting with that? I don't know how that works now.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. I mean, these guys, it's just like it's like you're playing professional sports and you just get traded and want to go to a different team. I mean, because it's not just like a player saying, "Hey, I want to leave." It's got to also be a recruiter or somebody in their ear saying, "Hey, if you come here, you get more time," and it's an interesting world that we live in.
It's a little bit disappointing too, because what happened to, if you're not getting playing time, work harder? That's what my dad, my mom and dad, they didn't say anything about where to go. My dad's only piece of advice was pick a school and stick with it. Don't be one of those guys who comes back and transfers to a small college back home because you're homesick. Make a good choice and stick with it.
Well, and I feel like we're seeing that. We saw that last year with I kind of feel like that's what happened with Oscar. Is like Oscar wasn't playing well. Season started rough. Rumor was he didn't come into the season conditioned, and then I think Calipari or somebody gets in his ears, and then all of a sudden he's transferring and leaving, and the grass is greener, and here we are. But it definitely has changed, especially I feel like in basketball more than in football. It's changed like the landscape because it's so easy for guys to leave and go play somewhere else, big school, than it was years ago.
I'm kind of waiting for, and it hasn't really happened to my knowledge, but I'm still kind of waiting for the kind of like the LeBron, Chris Bosh. We start to gather a couple of highly recruited guys, and they all decide, hey, you know what? It's not working at the school we chose. Let's all go to, I don't know, Ohio State school, or some school, some college, and then try to go to a college where they can kind of join up. We haven't seen that yet, but I think it could happen.
So, guys, we're looking down the barrel here. This Friday, we play against Akron. The game is televised, by the way. You can watch this week. It's an exhibition game, but it is televised. It's against Akron. It's in Morgantown in the Coliseum. All funds go for the Norma Ray Huggins Cancer Foundation. So we'll get to see a little bit of WVU basketball. I have a feeling it's not going to be, the full reveal. I think Huggins will trot out some different things, and we might see a starting five that we may not necessarily see all season. But looking at, preseason schedule, nothing really crazy. You've got Pitt in there. You've got this travel to the Charleston Classic down in South Carolina, where Ole Miss and St. Bonnie's and a couple of other Clemson, a couple other teams are. But other than Connecticut, which Connecticut's not Connecticut anymore, preseason not that rough. We start January 1st in Big 12 play. Scooty, you said a couple of weeks ago you weren't real hot on this team, and you were kind of, where is WVU this year? Are we dancing in March? Are we a upper tier seed? What do you think?
That's a good question. I'd like to think that we have a shot. I mean, if Ken Pomeroy already has us 49th, I think if we tread water, we should be an NCAA tournament team. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting just to see how things shake out. I don't know that we'll really see true comfortable rotation until maybe Big 12 play, because I think it's going to take time to sort all these guys out. We've got Diamond Kerrigan, we've got Paulie Polycap, Malik Curry. Those are 3 new guys that have just 1 year to play, and I'm sure they're not going to be thrilled if they're sitting on the bench, so they're going to do everything they can to get playing time. So, I think it'll be interesting. We've got a couple of freshmen, Seth Wilson and Kobe Johnson. Are they going to play? Are they going to be redshirted? Does Taj Thweet see some time this year, more so than last year? So we've got so many questions. I don't know where that leaves us. I think that's why I'm concerned about this team as far as wins and losses, because I think we've got more questions than we do answers. Johnson?
Yeah, I think what's interesting every time these preseason rankings come out are the middle teams in the Big 12 always seem to be bunched up. I think it's interesting how when you look at the middle of that pack, it's a lot of, you almost feel like the people making the ranking aren't real sure. So they you could almost mix and match the middle couple teams of the conference. So I think the kind of back to what Scoot was saying earlier, I think the faster we can gel before that January 1st date, the better. I'm interested to see, again, how maybe Taz, Sean, Gabe, some of these guys that have been with the program can help things get moving in the right direction. But I think if you come out and the conference always seems to be a buzzsaw at the same time. I mean, I'm saying that I'm thinking those middle teams might be really similarly ranked and talent wise probably in the same ballpark. But if you haven't kind of figured out that rotation and gelled the way you need to, the conference tends to chew people up and spit it out really fast, So I just worry that, kind of like Scoot and Brent were saying, there's like right now people are probably jockeying for position. And if you don't start to settle into who that 5 is, or maybe, 7-8 man rotation, it just makes me a little bit worried once you hit the ground running. We start, Guido, you mentioned January 1st. I think that January 1st game is against Texas, and there's a lot of expectation right now out of Texas. So, there's no easing into conference play. You just pretty much get thrown right in, and you got to start performing.
Well, Brent, and it's one of those things, like I look at it, coming into these preseason, games, these pre-conference games, I should say. Right now, all the teams we're playing, other than Connecticut, all the other teams that we're playing are ranked lower than us. If you look at Ken Palm or most of the other ones, Ole Miss, St. Bonnie's, Clemson, Pitt's like ranked 150th. And if you look at Ken Palm, so we're playing a lot of teams that we should be able to beat prior to January 1st. So, there's a chance you're looking at going into January 1st and maybe you've lost 1 or 2 games pre-conference, and you do that, you probably are ranked. You're probably getting votes. You're probably not looking bad. But you're playing a conference that's, like Johnson said, can sometimes be a buzzsaw, with some of these teams when you look at like Texas Tech and Texas, I feel like it's one of those, we're setting ourselves up for one of those years where we may be very confident about this team going into Big 12 play, and then coming out of Big 12 play, we may not feel as confident, Brent.
No, I agree with you. Looking over the schedule, there's a lot of mid-majors to start the year off. And I expect we will drop at least one of them. I'm not saying we're going to run the table. But, coming into conference play, we should, I anticipate us having a good record. And hopefully everyone will have, accepted their roles at that point after, you're 8-9 games into the season. And it's tough. The Big 12 is tough. And I don't know where we're going to land. I like you saying that it's a buzzsaw or whatever. We could come in and be a 500 team in the Big 12, and with a great start of the season with these a good record with the mid majors, and come in and make the NCAA tournament. I think we're right on the bubble right now. So every one of these games is going to count at the beginning of the season, especially when we look to get into March Madness. So it'll be telling after the first few games, but we'll find out the truth January 1st against Texas.
One thing, Guido, that should be different this year is a full house at the Coliseum. I don't know that we truly saw that last year at any point. So kind of in the Coliseum, if you haven't been there lately, it's pretty nice. New seats, new scoreboard, jumbotron. I mean, it's not Jerry World, but it's pretty close. It's pretty big. It's a real nice college experience. I think that with the fans there this year, that could be some help, because I think that was missing for sure last year.
It definitely could be. Now, I went to that Gold Blue debut, and there was, a decent amount. It wasn't nearly packed, but, I'm fully vaccinated. I've been traveling all over the world. I still don't know that I want to go into an indoor arena that's completely full of people screaming. So it'll be interesting to see how many people actually come and, want to go to that. And I know people are caring less and less these days, but, I'm still not sold on 14,000 people screaming and me just breathing all that air. So we'll find out.
And as of right now, WVU has no restrictions. So there's no restrictions on attendance. Like you said, Scooty, packed houses. So we'll see. We play Friday. I mean, it's a charity event. It'll probably won't be a sellout, but it'll probably be a pretty decent amount of people there for the Akron game.
My guess would be between 5,000 and 10,000.
Maybe that's about right. Maybe a little more. I think closer to 10, but yeah, I think you're about right. But Brent, thanks for joining us as always. I mean, excited about having you back this season with us. We'll have you on before we go to South Carolina and play in this Charleston Classic. But before you leave us, I do have one other topic I want to bring up with you and get your opinion on. Since we've last talked, the name and likeness has gone into effect for basketball players. And I thought it was really interesting. I listened to an interview with Taz Sherman last week, and Taz was real about it. Taz says, hey, it's great, really happy with it as a player. Taxes are real. He was like, taxes are real. And I was like, well, that's good. That's good that a college kid's learning that money is real. But he also said it's not hard. He says he doesn't think it's hard for any player, and he says any player on the WVU basketball team to make $40,000 a year easily off of name, image, and likeness. As a former player, as somebody who, and let's be honest, like when you played, you were a fan favorite. A lot of people loved you in West Virginia. You were, you were all over the media. There was a lot of Brent Solheim stuff everywhere. Those seasons you were there, you didn't have the opportunity to make $40,000 a year playing basketball. What's your feeling on it now that these kids have this opportunity?
Okay, so just to go back to what it was like when I was playing. Okay, so
can I just say that when you asked Brent that question, he looks like somebody just ran over his dog. He does not look very happy. He is so depressed because he wanted very much to represent Jan's hot dogs and maybe the Pokey Dot in Fairmont, and he didn't get a chance to maybe the Chick-fil-A. I don't know. He feels like he missed some golden opportunities, and he looks upset about it.
The Pokey Dots?
I'm just saying.
No, I'm actually super happy for these guys because I can appreciate what it's like being a broke athlete. Now, you're a full-time student, and you basically basketball is your full-time job. So, there were rules that you couldn't take a job. That changed either my junior or senior year, and during breaks you could actually get a job. And as wild as this sounds, I got a job at a funeral home, and I actually drove the hearse one time. An 88-year-old woman passed away, and I'm driving I'm alone with the dead body, driving a hearse to the cemetery. Obviously there's a whole bunch of people in cars behind me, but I mean, every single season, like if you're recruiting someone from a different part of the country, they have to pay a lot of money to fly home. That's not included on your scholarship check. Your scholarship check is for your room and board. So money to pay for your apartment and money for food, and that's it. It's not money to go to a movie or to take a date out to a nice restaurant. It was for you. And every single year I would be broke by the end of the year. And I had one of those credit cards that they sell students freshman year. And I had to pay off $1,000 because, I wanted to fly home twice a year to see my family. So I'm actually super happy for these guys that, if they're making $40,000, man, that's fantastic for them. Now, some of the guys on my team, were eligible for Pell Grants and stuff like that. And I was not eligible for any of that. And my parents were not helping me financially either. Now, maybe they might buy some groceries for me when they came to visit. But, I struggled financially through college. I have no problems admitting that. Now, I know some kids go into massive debt. So I'm thankful that WVU paid for my education. And I did get, the opportunity to play in front of a lot of people and be on scholarship. But $40,000 a year is a huge deal for a college athlete. I know it's not the millions the professional athletes are making, but if they can be even making half of that, that sets them up to be at least not hungry at the end of every month. And that's important.
Yeah, that's what I started to say. Yeah, I think that's maybe even more to it, right, Brent? I mean, it's not even that it's a glamorous amount. It's just the fact that they can take advantage of that and be able to get a little bit back on it.
Brent, do you think it would have, if you had been a ball player now and being recruited now, would it change your perspective of where you go based on what you could potentially earn as a player?
Yeah, I honestly think I would definitely look at what school, how are the students making out in the name, image, and likeness? Like, give an example. I read somewhere that the starting quarterback for Alabama, that's $1 million. That's going to be $1 million job going forward. I would definitely pick a bigger school over a smaller school because chances are, there's going to be more sponsors, more boosters that are willing to, work with you on that. So, yeah, I think it would definitely impact decisions going forward for sure.
Can you confirm that the ad campaign for that funeral, for Fred's funeral home where you drove the hearse was, when I'm not driving the lane, I'm driving the hearse? Tell them Brent sent you. Brent Solheim sent you.
No, hey, so honestly, I worked 2 funerals in that part-time job, and I actually cried at both. So I'm definitely not set out for that. I was not set out to be in any type of mortuary situation.
That was the level of glamour of your income during.
I think it would have been a catchy slogan. Like, I think it would have been good. When I'm not driving the lane, I'm driving the hearse.
I could carry flowers from the funeral home to the church to the cemetery like no one else. So
Johnson, what would it have been like if you and I were at our grandmother's funeral and here comes Brent Solheim rolling up in a hearse, dropping off your grandma?
We're like, hey, loved you against Temple. Thanks for driving, Grandpa.
Like, do they maybe slap a WV with your uniform number on the driver's side door or something? I think that'd be
no. It was not glamorous at all. I'm not even gonna pretend like it was. Wash some cars, move some flowers, actually drive the hearse one time. It was work.
Well, Brent, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you a bunch this season. Thanks for coming on, man.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Don't forget, a lot of stuff happening this week in the world of WVU sports. You've got this scrimmage game against Akron coming up on Friday. That game is on ESPN+, and then WVU plays Iowa State at that awesome 2:00 kickoff. That's so random. Also on ESPN+. So get your nickels out and get ready for some WVU sports this weekend. Hey, everybody, don't forget, look for us online. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter. Just search Got Your Ears On. Look for us on Facebook and check out our website, gotyourearson.com. We'll be back next week with another show, guys. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Got Your Ears On.